The Dallas Mavericks have taken a commanding 2-0 series lead behind the terrific play of Luka Doncic, the flamethrower that is Tim Hardaway Jr., and the underrated movement of Kristaps Porzingis. This is the Gray Area right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And you can catch me on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. The Dallas Mavericks walked into Los Angeles and handled their business accordingly by getting a 10-point win in Game 1 and then holding off the Los Angeles Clippers for a 127-121 win in Game number 2. The supporting cast that has helped Luka Doncic get this 2-0 series lead has been absolutely spectacular. Really good offensive performances from guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., who are 11 of 17 from the three-point line in the first 2 games of this series. The Mavericks as a team through 2 games so far are shooting 54% from the field and 50% from the three-point line. They are 35 of 70 in the first 2 games from downtown. An absolutely scorching basketball team from beyond the arc, and continue to put pressure on the Los Angeles Clippers, especially in first quarters, where they won the first 2 first quarters in these first 2 games. The Mavericks are now 29-0 this season when leading after the first quarter. An absolutely unreal statistic for a Mavericks team that's playing with the utmost confidence right now. A team that, if you remember, finished their last 16 games 12-4 as they walked into the playoffs. That is because Luka Doncic is the best player on the floor, and more importantly, he knows it. The level of disrespect that Luka Doncic is playing with against the Los Angeles Clippers has been on display throughout the first 2 games of this series. He's got 70 points through the first 2 games. And don't forget that one-legged step-back three-pointer that he hit on Kawhi Leonard in the third quarter of Game 2 that makes the stuff of legend. Even your man Dirk Nowitzki and Patrick Mahomes got up out of their seats because of what Luka Doncic was doing in the exploits that he was putting together on the floor against the Clippers. And that's been the biggest thing we've seen so far in this series. The Clippers have no answer for Doncic. Whether it's George, whether it's Leonard, whether it's Marcus Morris, whether it's your man Ivica Zubac getting barbecue chickened out there by Luka Doncic, Patrick Beverley, who's too blank and small for Luka Doncic to handle. It's amazing the way that the Mavericks have been able to exploit the matchups, whether it be on switches with Zubac, whether it be Paul George trying to fight through screens to try and stay on top of Doncic, and the strength that Doncic has been using to get to the basket, whether it be to create for himself in the mid-range or be able to hit step-back threes. He has scored in a variety of ways that has left the Clippers defense confused and befuddled. Here is Luka Doncic talking about what he sees every time he sees a guy like Kawhi Leonard or Paul George matched up against him and what he feels against these defenders. Here's Luka Doncic.
Luka, there was a possession when Kawhi is on you and you back him right down and go to the Dirk one-legger. It seems like every time Pat Beverley's on you, your eyes light up and you just attack him. Is there an individual matchup that you aren't excited to attack in this series?
I mean, obviously, Kawhi is an amazing defender. They have some good defenders like PG and Kawhi. I think they're two of the best perimeter defenders. And, but you just got to be aggressive. It's playoffs. You got to be aggressive. And that's it.
So you can tell Luka Doncic has the respect of Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and others, calling them, of course, really good defenders. But the way that he is playing, he knows he's the best player on the floor. And if he knows it, the rest of us surely know it. But it's that confidence from Luka Doncic that is permeating throughout the rest of his team. Tim Hardaway Jr., as I mentioned, 11 of 17 through the first 2 games of this series from downtown. Maxi Kleber, who got posterized in Game 1, came back to have a strong first quarter against the Clippers in Game 2 where he had 12 points. Even Kristaps Porzingis, rebounding from the 4-13 performance that he had in game number 1, was 8 of 12 in game 2, had 20 points, a career playoff high, 3 steals, and 2 blocks, and put behind him the distraction of getting fined $50,000 for violating the health and safety protocol rules by the NBA. So even Porzingis developing the movement without the basketball was massive in this game because decisions have to be made by defenses on whether or not to stay home with Porzingis on the three-point line or try and stick with Doncic as he tries to power his way to the basket. Those are the kinds of decisions that are making life difficult for Ty Lue and the Los Angeles Clippers, who for some reason have not been able to find themselves adjusting properly on the defensive end to what the Mavericks have been doing. The Mavericks do have to take advantage of their opportunities when they do get to the free throw line, as they went just 13 of 24 in game number 2 against the Clippers. This thing could have been even more of a rout if the Mavericks had just made their free throws. But more importantly, the supporting cast of the Dallas Mavericks continues to play extremely well. We've already mentioned guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Maxi Kleber. Give huge credit to Willie Cauley-Stein, where he came in the third quarter and really turned the tide defensively for the Mavericks. After giving up 73 points in the first half, they only gave up 19 points in that crucial third quarter to really turn things around defensively. And that is when this Mavericks team is at their best, when they are shooting the ball well from the three-point line and defending with the kind of intensity and ferocity that they're capable of. Even Josh Richardson in the fourth quarter was massive with the 9 points that he had. In accepting a bench role, Josh Richardson has finally settled in to what he can do to help this team continue to win basketball games, especially in the playoffs. Because remember, this was a Mavericks team that finished 12-4 to end the regular season, and they have carried that momentum into the playoffs so far. Luka Doncic is the 5th player in league history to lead his team outright in points, rebounds, and assists in each of the first 2 games of a postseason. We know what he's been on with 70 points through the first 2 games of this year, making mincemeat of the Clippers defense. But more importantly, it's been Porzingis who's been able to rebound and move without the basketball, that's creating opportunities for his teammates. Here's a little bit of Kristaps Porzingis talking about the idea of getting back to some of those fundamentals in order to be effective even without the basketball. Here's Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, I thought about the last game a lot, and kind of went back a little bit to the fundamentals of how I can affect the game, and also realized that by me being out there, I'm like a decoy for other guys, for Tim, for Luka, for everybody. Kawhi's guarding me, so on the offensive end, I realized like that's I can solely do that if that opens up shots for my teammates and takes Kawhi off of Luka, for example. And that's good for us. At the end, that's good for us. No matter if I'm involved in every situation or I'm not. And then just, as I said, went back to the fundamentals a little bit on how I can affect the game, even if I'm not scoring and even if I'm not, shooting and things like that, which is something that I love to do. And
so Porzingis saying, look, I've got to do things that affect the offense without me having the basketball and without me taking shots. And you saw that be much more consistent throughout game number 2. Going forward for the rest of this series, the Mavericks have to be better in transition defense and in terms of paint resistance. They gave up 38 points in the paint in the first half, where the Clippers made a concerted effort to try and punish the Mavericks on the inside. I expect more of that going into Game 3 and throughout the rest of the series, because they did, Clippers, find success in doing so. So it's going to be up to the Mavericks to be able to be much better in terms of defending the paint and now allowing the Clippers to get anything that they wanted. Kawhi Leonard, who, yes, had 41 points, 30 of those coming in the first half, went cold in the third and fourth quarters. He only had 4 points in that crucial third quarter where the Clippers were held to just 19 points. That is going to be much of the same that needs to happen defensively for the Mavericks going forward. It's going to be very difficult for them to sustain a 50% three-point pace clip throughout the rest of this series. But if they are able to shoot anywhere between 38 to 40% for the rest of this series in terms of the three ball, this series could be over pretty quickly, because they're not necessarily going to cool off to the fact that they're going to drop below 35, 34% in this series because of the way that they've been shooting the lights out so far. But the way that the Mavericks are playing with the kind of confidence, knowing that they believe that they are the best team on the floor each and every time they step out onto the same floor with the Clippers know it. You saw it at times in the fourth quarter. Their heads were hanging down. The body language was bad. They know that they are in a fight with a team that was playing with the ultra confidence, knowing of what they're capable of. There always comes a point in a series where you know who the better team is. The Clippers may have the better personnel and the bigger names, The Mavericks are the better team, and they play like it, and more importantly, they believe that they know they are the better team. And that is saying something, and I don't say that lightly, because now the Mavericks are coming home to the American Airlines Center, where it's going to be near a full capacity crowd. And for Luka Doncic having an opportunity to play a playoff game at home for the very first time in front of fans, knowing how big he plays when the lights are brightest and the stage is biggest, the Clippers might be in a world of trouble. And it's because of the fact that the Mavericks are playing like the team that they believe that they are capable of. And when you have that kind of belief, the sky is the limit. The Mavericks host the Los Angeles Clippers in Game 3 on Friday night at the American Airlines Center, where they look to put a stranglehold on this series and be the kind of mature team that puts their foot on the throat of a Clippers team that will come out, we think, desperate. But if anything has shown us so far, maybe the Clippers don't have that heart. The Mavericks, though, are playing like it. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. This has been another episode of The Gray Area. We'll talk to you later.